Hey guys, it's Courtney Edmond here from To Tame the Shame Parenting and Coaching, and I am here today to talk with you about the biology of our kids' defense mechanisms, our kids' excuses, our kids' reasons for not doing what we ask them to do, for not meeting expectations. And I am going to do my best to summarize the amazing work of Dr. Stephen Porges, Porges, and his work on what's called the polyvagal theory. And this is the basis for why this forms the explanation for the biological basis of why our kids do what they do when we ask them to do something and it seems like it's a simple request, and yet they take it as an immediate threat, or they take it as um and their response just doesn't seem like a reasonable response emotionally based on what we've asked them to do, right? It seems like they take it all out of proportion, but it's in fact deeply embedded in the evolution of our nervous system. And I don't know, I'm going to do my best, like I said, to talk about this, and I'll provide some graphics in the platform for you to look at, for those of you who are visual, to help you understand it and remember it. But what I want you to take away from this is that our kids' behavioral responses are tied to their autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system is something that allowed us to survive as a human species in the face of threats and danger throughout our lives. And there are several components to that autonomic nervous system. And you may be more familiar with it in hearing something called the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system is involved with fight and flight. The parasympathetic nervous system, according to Dr. Stephen Porges, has two different routes, if you will. One is called the ventral vagal route, which, if you have heard about the parasympathetic nervous system, it helps you calm down. Right? And so the ventral vagal route helps you be in a space of calm and engagement. The dorsal, or the backside of it, the ventral just means like the front side. If you're talking about the human body, the ventral is kind of like your stomach side, and the dorsal is your backside. So the dorsal side of it results in you freezing, right? So it's and then the fight or flight is the sympathetic, and it's kind of in the middle. And the reason that we talk about dorsal vagal and ventral vagal and dorsal vagal is because the vagus nerve, which originates in the brain, it's called a cranial nerve, but it comes down into our body, and it's one of the longest nerves in our body, and it is part of this autonomic nervous system response. It's involved in our parasympathetic nervous response, and in our sympathetic nervous response. And it's the connection between our brain and our body's response. And so if you start to, your stomach gets unsettled, that can be a part of your vagus response in the sympathetic nervous system, in the face of uncertainty, in the face of danger. But my point is that Dr. Porges has helped us understand the connection between the vagus nerve and our responses to situations that are happening in life. And if we perceive the situation that's happening in life to be a threat, our vagus nerve is going to be activated. And if we perceive it to be dangerous or something, we're going to get amped up. We're going to build defenses, right? It's going to be that fight or flight experience. And that's why our kids so frequently, even though they're in a safe situation, their perception when anybody asks them to do something is, oh no, I'm not going to be able to do it. It's going to be another unmet expectation, another failure. And that's why they have the responses that they do. And so they build up this cushion of protection against them. And if that danger gets to be so much, they just freeze. So they avoid it. And that's when that dorsal root of the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic piece can be activated. They just freeze. They don't do anything because they're almost numb to it. It's so hard for them to continue to fail to meet the expectations. So, polyvagal theory. Our bodies are wired to respond to a sense of safety where we can be calm and engaged, and our bodies are wired to respond to danger. And when our brains perceive danger, which for our kids is any moment when they're going to be asked to do something that's not their preferred task, that feels like they're going to fail, their autonomic nervous system gets going and they move into the fight and flight. And so that's why so much of my approach is geared in compassion and in connection, because in order to do that, and it's in that model, that safety and trust, because we have to help our kids' nervous systems perceive safety. When they perceive safety is when they can begin to engage socially. So it's not just the connection of their downstairs brain to their upstairs brain and integrating that and being able to think in their frontal lobe. It's allowing their autonomic nervous system, their system that's constantly scanning for threat at a subconscious level. It's helping that subconscious be in this, I guess I said the ventral vagal was over here, right? Be in that ventral vagal state, parasympathetic state, in which they're able to even use their upstairs brain, even get into that limbic system, right? So it's all connected, that vagus nerve, the limbic system, the frontal cortex, the prefrontal cortex, it's all connected. And so when we can help them get to a parasympathetic state of social engagement and feel safe without the perception of, oh no, you're going to do this, right? So our body language can contribute to that. Our tone of voice can contribute to that. And what we want to try to do is to support our children in living in that parasympathetic state when we're engaging with them and asking them to do things. We also want to help them. We can do this by co-regulating. We can do this by being calm ourselves. Dr. Sharon Saline talked about self-control. We talk about connect and redirect. I talk about compassionate curiosity. Like when we approach our kids in a calm state, we are contributing to their ability to sense safety. So that is that piece. There is a part of our kids that do better when there's a little bit of anxiety. I don't want to use the word anxiety, but a little bit of energy, amped up energy, and knowledge that I have to get this done, right? That can be motivating for them. That can be helpful in getting things going. But we have to be careful about overdoing it such that we don't just shut down and freeze, because that's the other side of the autonomic nervous system and the vagus nerve. So there's this ventral vagal side and the parasympathetic, which is the social engagement side. There's the sympathetic part of the vagus nerve that gets you going in fight and flight, right? So you kind of want to be in that the middle ground of this ventral vagal to the sympathetic part of the vagus nerve. It's all subconscious there, right? And then there's that's how where mindfulness can come in to support that toning of the vagus nerve and help you be more less into defense, living in defense mode, which is that dorsal vagal and that fight and flight zone over here, right? So we're trying to continually move, like you're constantly scanning the room. Am I safe? Am I not safe? And trying to figure out, trying to land in that sweet spot of living in that ventral side of things where you're energized but you're engaged and you're not feeling threatened or the need to shut down. And the longer we can live there, the more likely we will not subconsciously respond. The kids will not subconsciously respond to fight or flight or freeze. So that's the biology of our kids' excuses and defenses. And we want to support them in living in a world where their autonomic nervous system is not automatically every time with a social engagement in fight, flight, or freeze. I hope that this is helpful, and I hope that through the compassionate curiosity, you will learn a little bit more about how to help your child live in that parasympathetic ventral vagal side, an energized sympathetic nervous system side. Have a great day.